it's me again here reading Harry Potter. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. Finally middle of the week on this digital learning day. In Harry Potter, we are still in chapter 13. We just found out some really awesome information that when Harry Potter writes inside his diary, the author of the diary, Tom Riddle, writes back in the diary. Tom Riddle knows a lot about the Chamber of Secrets and just told Harry that he would like to show him his memories of who has opened the Chamber of Secrets. So we're about to see a really awesome part, okay? Alrighty, so Tom Riddle just wrote, "Let me show you," and Harry replies back, "Okay." The pages of the diary began to blow as though caught in a high wind, stopping halfway through the month of June. Mouth hanging open, Harry saw that the little square for June 13th seemed to have turned into a minuscule television screen. His hands trembling slightly, he raised the book to press his eyes against the little window, and before he knew what was happening, he was tilting forward, and the window was widening, and he felt his body heave in bed, and when he was pitched head forward through the opening of the page, into a whirl of color and shadow. He felt his feet hit solid ground and stood shaking as the blurred shapes around him came suddenly into focus. He knew immediately where he was. The circular room with the sleeping portraits was Dumbledore's office, but it wasn't Dumbledore who was sitting behind the desk. A wizened, frail-looking wizard, bald except for a few wisps of white hair, was reading a letter by candlelight. Harry had never seen this man before. "I'm sorry," he said shakily. "I didn't mean to butt in." But the wizard didn't look up. He continued to read. Frowning slightly, Harry drew nearer to his desk and stammered, "I'll just go, shall I?" Still, the wizard ignored him. He didn't seem to have heard him. Thinking that the wizard might be deaf, Harry raised his voice. "Sorry, I disturbed you. I'll go now," he half-shouted. The wizard folded up the letter with a sigh, stood up, walked past Harry without glancing at him, and went to draw the curtains at his window. The sky outside the window was ruby red. It seemed to be sunset. The wizard went back to the desk, sat down, and twiddled his thumbs, watching the door. Harry looked around the office. No Fox the Phoenix, no swirling silver contraptions. This was Hogwarts, as Riddle had known it, meaning that this unknown wizard was headmaster, not Dumbledore, and he, Harry, was little more than a phantom, completely invisible to the people 50 years ago. There was a knock on the door. "Enter," said the old wizard in a feeble voice. A boy of about 16 entered, taking off his pointed hat. A silver prefix badge was glinting on his chest. He was much taller than Harry, but he too had jet black hair. "Ah, Riddle," said the headmaster. "You wanted to see me, Professor Dippet," said Riddle. He looked nervous. "Sit down," said Dippet. "I've just been reading the letters you sent me." "Oh," said Riddle. He sat down, gripping his hands together very tightly. "My dear boy," said Dippet kindly, "I cannot possibly let you stay at school over the summer. Surely you want to go home for the holidays." "No," said Riddle at much. "I'd much rather stay at Hogwarts than go back to the... You live in a Muggle orphanage during the holidays, I believe," said Dippet curiously. "Yes, sir," said Riddle, reddening slightly. "You were Muggle-born?" "Half-blood, sir," said Riddle. "Muggle father, witch mother." "And both your parents?" "My mother died just after I was born, sir. They told me at the orphanage she lived just long enough to name me. Tom, after my father. Marvolo, after my grandfather." Dippet clutched his tongue sympathetically. "The thing is, Tom," he sighed, "special arrangements might have been made for you, but in the current circumstances—" "You mean all these attacks, sir?" said Riddle, and Harry's heart leapt as he moved closer, scared of missing anything. "Precisely," said the headmaster. "My dear boy, you must see how foolish it would be of me to allow you to remain in the castle when term ends, particularly in the light of the recent tragedy. The death of that poor little girl. You will be safer by far at your orphanage. As a matter of fact, the Ministry of Magic is even now talking about closing the school. We are no nearer locating the source of the unpleasantness." Riddle's eyes widened. "Sir, if the person was caught, if all of this stopped—" "What do you mean?" said Dippet, with a squeak in his voice, sitting up in the chair. "Riddle, do you know something about these attacks?" "No, sir," said Riddle quickly. But Harry was sure it was the same sort of no that he himself had given Dumbledore. Dippet sank back down, looking fairly disappointed. "You may go, Tom." Riddle slid off his chair and slouched out of the room. Harry followed him. Down the moving spiral staircase they went, emerging next to the gargoyle in the darkening corridor. Riddle stopped, and so did Harry, watching him. Harry could tell that Riddle was doing some serious thinking. He was biting his lip, his forehead furrowed. Then, as though he had suddenly reached a decision, he hurried off. Harry glided noiselessly behind him. They didn't see another person until they reached the entrance hall, when a tall wizard with long sweeping auburn hair and a beard called to Riddle from the marble staircase. "What are you doing wandering around this late, Tom?" Harry gaped at the wizard. He was none other than a 50 years younger Dumbledore. I had to see the headmaster, sir, said Riddle. Well, hurry off to bed, said Dumbledore, giving Riddle exactly the kind of penetrating stare Harry knew so well. Best not to roam the corridors these days, not since... He sighed heavily, bade Riddle good night, and strode off. Riddle watched him walk out of sight, and then moving quickly headed straight down the stone steps to the dungeons, with Harry in hot pursuit. But to Harry's disappointment, Riddle led him not into a hidden passageway or a secret tunnel, but to the very dungeon in which Harry had potions with Snape. The torches hadn't been lit, and when Riddle pushed the door almost closed, Harry could only just see him standing stock still by the door watching the passage outside. It felt to Harry that they were there for at least an hour. All he could see was the figure of Riddle at the door, staring through the crack, waiting like a statue. And just when Harry had stopped feeling expectant and tense, and started wishing he could return to the present, he heard something move beyond the door. Someone was creeping along the passage. He heard whoever it was past the dungeon where he and Riddle were hidden. Riddle, quiet as a shadow, edged through the door and followed, Harry tiptoeing behind him, forgetting that he couldn't be heard. For perhaps 5 minutes they followed the footsteps until Riddle stopped suddenly, his head inclined in the direction of a new noise. Harry heard a door creep open and then something speaking in a hoarse whisper. Come on, get out of here. Come on now, in the box. There was something familiar about that voice. Riddle suddenly jumped around the corner. Harry stepped out behind him, and he could see the dark outline of a huge boy who was crouching in front of an open door, a very large box next to it. Evening, Rebus, said Riddle sharply. The boy slammed the door shut and stood up. What you doing down here, Tom? Riddle stepped closer. It's all over, he said. I'm going to have to turn you in, Rebus. They're talking about closing Hogwarts if the attacks don't stop. What are ya? I don't think you meant to kill anyone, but monsters don't make good pets. I suppose you just let it out for exercise, and... I never killed no one, said the large boy, backing against the door. From behind him, Harry could hear a funny rustling and clicking. Come on, Rebus, said Riddle, moving yet closer. The dead girl's parents will be here tomorrow. The least Hogwarts can do to make sure that thing is killed, their daughter is slaughtered. I wasn't him, roared the boy, his voice echoing in the dark passage. He wouldn't, he never. Stand aside, said Riddle, drawing out his wand. His spell lit the corridor with a sudden flaming light. The door behind the large boy flew open with such force that it knocked him into the wall opposite, and out of it came something that made Harry let out a long, piercing scream unheard by anyone. A vast, low-slung, hairy body in a tangle of black legs, a gleam of many eyes, and a pair of razor-sharp pincers. Riddle raised his wand again, but he was too late. The thing bowled over as it scurried away, tearing up the corridor and out of sight. Riddle scrambled to his feet, looked after it. He raised his wand, but the huge boy leapt on him, seized his wand, and threw him back down, yelling, No! The scene whirled, and the darkness became complete. Harry felt himself falling, and with a crash he landed spread eagle on his four-poster bed in the Gryffindor dormitory, Riddle's diary laying open on his stomach. Before he had time to regain his breath, the dormitory door opened and Ron came in. There you are, he said. Harry sat up. He was sweating and shaking. What's up? Said Ron, looking at him with concern. It was Hagrid, Ron. Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago. Ooh, guys, that is the end of that chapter, end of chapter 13. Chapter 14 is titled Cornelius Fudge. Oh my gosh. So we have just found, based off what Tom Riddle's memory was, Hagrid had a monster and Hagrid opened up the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago and killed a girl. So, oh my goodness, guys, if you are able, please, please, please watch this clip on YouTube. It is an awesome one. Just type in Chamber of Secrets, and you can type in Tom Riddle's diary, and it should show Harry seeing this memory. So, guys, this is just getting good. I'm so excited. Look at how much we have left. We're almost there. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Get outside, enjoy the nice weather, know I love you, and continue reading every night. Okay, bye, guys.